So granted, I haven't played Hellblade 2 yet. I haven't installed. I'm going to give it a chance. I wasn't a huge fan of the first game. I thought it looked really, really good. And I also thought that, the whole puzzle situation was not my favorite thing with the looking puzzles and things like that. I heard they're a fair bit easier in Hellblade 2. But Hellblade 2, the reviews came out today. The game came out today. And to be honest with you, the reviews have it sitting at an 82 Metacritic score as of right now. There's a few lowball points. It looks like GameSpot gave it a 5 or something. And, it just, I don't know. It's like, for me, I'm not going to judge those yet, because I think obviously people are going to have different types of reviews. GameSpot gave it a 6. Metro gave it a 5. IGN gave it an 8 out of 10. So I think that, there's obviously going to be difference of opinions out of this. Obviously, a lot of people thought it was a masterpiece. Some didn't. For me, like I said, I was kind of talking about this a little bit. This game was announced with the Xbox Series X back in 2019. Here we are 5 years later, and, the game is sitting at an 82, which isn't a bad score. Right? Like, I'm just being honest. It's not a bad score at all. It's a score that clearly people are kind of, jumping on a little bit. But, for me personally, I think that it's fine. I feel like, like Microsoft has, they've done some good things. They've done some bad things. Overall, obviously things are going to be kind of, I think, different than what we all expect as gamers because, at the end of the day, I feel like Microsoft is going to get kind of treated one way or the other, and it's not going to be treated great or fair the way that, normal people would. But, again, I think that when it comes to something like Hellblade 2, this game was never going to be, I guess I want to say, this breakout hit or whatever. This thing that was going to be looked at and said, oh, well, there's a reason I have to get an Xbox, and I'm not covering for Xbox. I think clearly, obviously until, and I've mentioned this multiple times on Twitter, listen, Xbox is going to do what they continue to do. They're going to come out with games, but in my opinion anyway, until they come out with game after game after game and they can break through that 90 plus rated Metacritic score. And I know people are going to go, oh, well, Metacritic doesn't count. It doesn't matter. Who cares about it? Listen, Nintendo had a 90 plus rated game with Mario today, right? Sony has had multiple 90 plus rated games. It's nothing new for them. For Xbox, I think, if it's not Forza Horizon, it's not going to get a 90 plus. I think they needed, like, imagine where they could be right now if, they had Hi-Fi Rush, if Redfall had been good, and then Forza and Starfield, if those had scored, a couple of those had gotten into the 90s. Like, I thought for sure, in my opinion, I was like, Starfield's going to be 90 plus rated, Forza's going to be 90 plus rated. I kind of figured Redfall would be somewhere in the high 70s or low 80s, but that's fine. But it ended up being a 56 or whatever. With Hellblade 2, I thought it ticks off a lot of the boxes. If you look at what reviewers are kind of talking about and things like that, reviewers love female protagonists right now. So boom, you get that. You got that going for it. They love, it ticks off another box, deals with mental health, right? So you got that. So I thought for sure, I was like, hey, this thing's going to tick off the boxes, but a lot of the reviews were saying that, unfortunately, the game took a step back from the previous game. Now, I wasn't the biggest fan of the previous game, so that doesn't really mean much to me personally. But, again, seeing a lot of people kind of talk about this and say, oh, well, it's media bias or whatever. I'm not necessarily thinking that it's media bias. I mean, like 81, 82 is a good score. But unfortunately, it's not the score that's going to change people's perceptions about Xbox, right? And I think that that's what Microsoft needs. They need somebody to come in and kind of change the narrative. And unfortunately, I'm not sure if that's ever going to happen at this point. It could happen. It could be one of those things that kind of changes or whatever. But you know, at some point, I feel like Microsoft has to do so. Like, whose reason is this for this game not being a 90 plus rated? I know people might not think that matters or whatever, but I think it matters somewhat, and I think you've got to be able to have games that go out there and appeal to everybody, and that can get people to buy into Game Pass. They can get people to buy into what Microsoft is trying to do. I think that's really important going forward, and you got to have those games that are going to draw people in. Now, is Hellblade 2 going to do that? From the early looks of it on Steam, no. On the early looks of it from Xbox, probably not. The first game, I think, had 5 or 6 million players in it as well. After a few years, and that was released on the Switch, PC, Xbox One, PS4. So yeah, I think that we're in for kind of a weird situation with this, but I don't think that it's probably a terrible game or anything like that. People are always going to look for a reason to kind of hate on a game. Obviously, we're finding out things all the time with these types of things when they happen. So this game was shown off in 2019. So people actually, believe it or not, thought that game was pretty far along when it launched, or when the Xbox Series X launched. They thought that was maybe even going to be a launch game or a game that would come out the following year. It's just interesting to realize that that game was kind of made in 2.5, 3 years, because in 2019, when the trailer was shown, apparently there was no game. Right as they were moving studios, the game was pretty much reliant on motion cap in Unreal Engine 5, which a lot of people have struggled with. So this game was probably made in like 2.5 years. It's about a 5-6 hour game, and at the end of the day, I think that people are going to have to kind of judge it for themselves. Like, that would be my thing. Like, I'm going to judge it for myself. I didn't buy the game. It's digital only. So here's the thing though. Like, I think Ninja Theory can do fantastic work, but at the same time, you don't want to sit there and think that they're safe, because they put out a game that has gotten pretty decent scores, 81, 82 Metacritic, but there's no multiplayer. It's a short game, and it's dealing with things like mental health issues that aren't widely appealing to a lot of gamers. And again, the fact that there's no physical release, I think that that's really kind of setting this game up to maybe not be hugely successful. So people are worried that they're going to close them. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. What do you guys think about it? If you've played it, let me know down below. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Rack 'em up. Crap Gamer out.